What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So Sion, this is the League of Legends champion I'm going to be covering today from Noxus. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go through his bio, I'm going to go through his skins. He's actually got some artwork that I'm also going to go through. I'm going to go through his story, his spotlight and any special interactions. And also I think he's got 2 login themes I'm going to be going through as well. I'll attempt at the whole thing as I always do. So yeah, without further ado, let's start things off with the bio. Let's go. So Sion, the undead juggernaut. So, over a century past, the brutal warlord Sion, in fact, whoa. Before I do this, he's got a champion trailer. I have to do that first. So I'm going to do the champion trailer first. And then I'm going to continue on with this bio. Let's go. Let's go. Oh. Okay, nice little update teaser. That was definitely an update teaser. Watch that one more time. So clearly some kind of sacrifice or act that's taken place there from Noxus, and then what, their life force has been used to create Sion. But then it says reborn, so he must have died previously. I'm sure we'll find out from his bio what we better do. So that nicely allows us to move on to the bio. So let's go. So Sion, the undead juggernaut. So over a century past, the brutal warlord Sion rose to prominence, slaughtering all who dared stand in his way. Greatly feared by friend and foe alike, he was the last of a proud warrior culture that had been part of Noxus since its founding. Sion had sworn oaths to his ancestors to never take a backward step in battle and to die a proud warrior's death when his time came. Typical Noxus. While not noted for his subtlety or strategic acumen, Sion's methods were ruthlessly effective and he won many victorious triumphs for Noxus. The Empire's might was at a peak not seen for hundreds of years, and so it took the generals of high command by surprise when a nation from the west first resisted, then began pushing back their steady advance. These Demacians drove the Noxian warbands eastward, harrying them behind the walls of Havrids. Sion, who had been campaigning in the Argent Mountains, now turned south, filled with fury. He arrived at the city to find the Demacians on the horizon. I wonder what happens when he meets Galio. They had no intention of besieging Havardis. Having driven the Noxians from the land neighbouring their own, they were preparing to return home. The Noxian commander Sion readied his troops, determined to punish these upstarts for their impudence. The Noxian commander of Havardis, however, had already suffered several defeats to the enemy and was content to hide behind the city walls and let them leave unscathed. It had been Sion and his warriors who had paid the claim to the land now lost in blood. Outraged, he hurled the commander from the city walls and ordered the attack, like you do. Sion tore straight through the Demacian lines, seeking out their leader, King Jarvan I. Ooh, okay. But while his own warband charged with him, fearless of death, those who had been cowering in Havardis were weak. Their spirit broke and they retreated back to the city, so he's all alone, leaving Sion and his trusted few surrounded. One by one they fell, but Sion ploughed on. Alone, pierced by a dozen swords and a score of crossbow bolts, he finally reached Jarvan. The fight was brutal, and it was the Demacian who delivered the killing blow. Sion dropped his axe and with a final burst of strength tore the king's crown from his head with one hand, clamping the other around his throat. Okay, Jarvan's guards stabbed Sion again and again, but his grip did not loosen. Only when the enemy king was slain did Sion allow death to claim him. Okay, so he killed the original Jarvan. His body was recovered along with the Demacian king's crown still in his grip and borne back to the immortal Bastion in honour. Noxus mourned Sion's passing and his corpse was interred within a towering monument constructed to honour him for all time. So this is what we see in Sion Reborn. Half a century passed before Sion's tomb was reopened. There we go. Noxian dominance had waned in the years since Sion's death, and the ruling Grand General of the Empire, Baron Darkwell, was willing to pay almost any price to restore its lost glory. Darkwell's allies, a mysterious cabal known as the Black Rose, reincarnated the long-dead hero using forbidden magics and presented him to the Grand General. I wonder if he's changed, though. He could not refuse the gift, and so Sion returned to life, driven by unnatural bloodlust and utterly in turn to pain. He held himself like a living battering ram against the enemies of Noxus, destroying all he faced. More so than before his death, the victorious Sion brought were costly. Here we go. He was uncontrollable, killing friend and foe without remorse, and those forced to fight alongside him began to desert. Finally, Darkwell ordered Sion re-entered. Hundreds of warriors dying tried to retain him before he was finally bound in chains and dragged back to the Immortal Bastion. Without slaughter, the blood magic that sustained him quickly engulfed his mind in an all-consuming rage. His roars finally fell silent as he was sealed in beneath his giant structure. So the guy dies, they resurrect him, bring him back to life, they Frankenstein him. It doesn't go the way they want it to go, so they put him back in the tomb. Poor Sion. There he languished for many years. I bet he's neither alive nor truly dead, like Schrodinger's cat. When his tomb opened once more, it was to a very different empire. Darkwell was gone, overthrown by the Jet-Right General Jericho Swain, but Sion cared little, roaring and pulling against his bindings in a frenzy that could only be sated in battle. Chained within that iron cage, he returned to Havardis, which had broken away from Noxian rule under Darkwell's reign. Sion was the new Grand General's punishment for their rebellion. He butchered the defenders of Havardis and levelled the city, laughing as he ripped its towers apart with his bare hands. Over the regions that had abandoned Noxus soon bent the knee, fearing the undead juggernaut would be unleashed upon them next. When harsh daylight floods his opening tomb, Sion now welcomes it, for with it comes a chance to shed his chains and state his hunger for bloodshed, to briefly silence the screaming madness drowning out all thoughts of rest. Sion remembers only fragments of his life and less of the time since, but one truth has remained as stark as the day of his death. Now, as then, the world trembles before him. They ain't lying there. You know he's OP, where it shows before he was possessed and in essence really made unkillable. He was able to kill King Jarvan I. And I like how it shows that he's clearly quite old, because he killed the original Jarvan of Demacia. Then he went through Baron Darkwell, and then obviously Jericho Swain. So there's obviously various leaders that he's come and gone through, and obviously I like how it shows how they've used him in different ways as well. But the last thing I'll quickly say on this is he's basically the reverse Galio. So Galio is the one that's used to absorb magic, and being around magic obviously means that he's alive and then he can function and do his thing. It's kind of the same in a way for Sion, that Sion's only used for destruction and then he's put back in his box. So when Noxus want to use him, they'll take him out, and once they're done with him, they'll put him back. And it's kind of a similar thing with Galio. The raw Galio outdoor to fight mages. Once it's done, he turns back into a statue and they put him back in his place. So yeah, so you can see how there's a lot of similarities between Galio and Sion. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to his skins. Let's go. Okay, so this is Sion's original skin. A war hero from a bygone era, Sion was revered in Noxus for choking the life out of a Demacian king with his bare hands. Let me just move up a little bit there. Hold up. That might be better. Here we go. With his bare hands. But denied oblivion, he was resurrected to save his empire even in death, which is what we saw from the trailer. His indiscriminate slaughter claimed all who stood in his way, regardless of allegiance, proving he has no longer retained his former humanity. Even so, with the crude armour bolted onto rotten flesh, Sion continues to charge into battle with reckless abandon, struggling to remember his true self between the swings of his mighty axe. So, let's just close that. So that's his base skin. Yeah, that is really good. I like that. It reminds me of, is it 2019 where he versus Aurelia? I don't know. There's a scene in that that's pretty epic. Anyways, the next one is Barbarian Sion. Who is this person that's flying in midair there? Wow. Okay, so this is... let's bring that up a little bit higher. Avoiding every social cue his role-playing group throws his way, Sion has repeatedly rolled barbarians only to die immediately after rejoining the table. At this point, he spent more time working on character sheets than actually playing Rift Quest, and it shows. His newest barbarian backstory reads, is a barbarian. Okay, and yeah, that's nice. I like that skin as well. Suits definitely his design. Next one is Lumberjack. I've seen this a couple of times in gameplay as well. Possibly one of my favourites, actually. He's a Lumberjack and he's okay. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, I like that one. Then we have, what is this one? Warmonger. Woi. Warmonger Sion, no law there. Mecha Zero, which is one of the login themes I'm going to go through. The ultimate ground-based mecha unit. Zero Sion becomes like a freight train once given a combat directive and will literally stop at nothing to dismantle an opponent. No matter how much damage it takes, there are lingering concerns that he could go rogue, but so far these worries have been unfounded. It's a bit like Pacific Rim, innit? And then this one here, World Breaker. Nice, look at the size of that one. A once towering fortress toppled during the last annihilation. The thing called Sion was given consciousness by Malzahar and raised up to become the purest titan of death and destruction. Now imbued with ravenous hatred, he blasts the terrain with every step, hell-bent on culling any instance of life. And then, Black Forest, a fearsome, whatever that is, who once stood at the front of Lysandra's vast armies. Sion fell in battle only for his master's magic to weave itself beneath his massive frame, resurrecting him as a monster of rage and cold. Nice. Okay, so in the Legacy Vault, we've got one. So this one here is Hextech. So over the years, many have asked, should art be changed by the fleeting concept of morality, or should science bend a knee to the law of man? Some believe progress is not made by holding ourselves back, and though we may give birth to monsters, Hextech will always guide our path. So that's basically like a Frankenstein in it there. I love this. I love the attention to detail on the stitching as well, and you can kind of see how it looks like it's fraying a little bit between the stitches as well, which is nice. Okay, so that is everything single one. So my favourite one would have to be... I'm actually going to go with Hextech. Yeah, Hextech is my favourite one. That one is number one. Number two would have to be Lumberjack. I really do like the look of Lumberjack. And number three, which is close, would be Warmonger. So they would be my top three. So what I'm going to do now is, before I move on to his first login theme, I'm going to go through some of his artwork. Let's go. So this is the art of League of Legends. So this is going to revolve around Sion. Yeah, I like it. So in the beginning, champion updates were little more than side projects. The idea, says senior concept artist Michael Monero, was basically, when we get the time, we're going to get some of the ugly out of the game. But minor rework experiments on champions like Siva and Nasus showed us that updates were hugely appreciated by players, which you can, yeah, definitely. I think it's the little things that make the biggest difference as well, particularly if you're playing a character and that's your main champion as well. Artists realised that we should focus on updates more seriously, so we formed a new team dedicated solely to champion reworks. And this is the example of Sion here. Yeah. Wow, I do not bleed. So this is the man before he died and before he died and was resurrected. Yeah, I like that. I like how he had a ponytail before and now he's got a sword in the back of his head that's similar to a ponytail. So Sion, one of the original 40 champions who launched alongside the game, was a perfect project for the champion update team. By season 4, his model animations and even voiceover had begun to feel seriously out of place. He was a wacky looking dude and not for the right reason. Still, lots of players loved the old Sion, so we reinvented him in a way that retained the essence of what made him unique, while also modernising his design. So please do not tell me that that's how Sion looked. Please do not tell me. Sion sketches. Okay, so what is that? That looks like Sandman out of Spider-Man. Yeah, hopefully these are just designs and these didn't make it into the game. But if they did, wow. Ooh, okay. Every champion has a certain amount of blank space that players project their own feelings onto. True. This is why it's important to keep champions updated. The inherent challenge for us is not to simply define for ourselves what we think the character is, but to dig into what players think the character is about, regardless of what we intend that character to be. Well said. So true. And that's why I think that's why, in my opinion, I think they need to slow down on how many characters they pump out, because when they're kind of constantly doing that, in the past 2 years, they've maybe put out 7 or 8 characters that at least I'm aware of. You're not giving the old characters enough time, i.e. people like Yorick. And I feel like you need to go back and update Shyvana, for example, as well. Flush up their lore a little bit more, give them more updates. I don't think you can do that when every couple of months you put out new characters. But I know it's a business, and that's how things work as well. Look at this. So you got Sion here. This is another version of him, and this is like the this is like the Shadow Isles version. That's a Shadow Isles version of Sion. That is grim. Why? So, my axe is getting cold. The champion update team knew that some of Sion's visual hooks, his monster-sized axe and an undead feel were key to his character. Skewing his palette to a pale and ashen range accentuated the sense that his flesh had gone rotten. Enhancing the reds and blacks in his bolted on armor reinforced his allegiance to Noxus. In the end, the rework Sion became an enhanced version of the character Place had already imagined him to be, new but familiar. And this is what we saw in the trailer as well. I never noticed that before. So this is what Sion looked like previously. This is obviously the temple that was dedicated to him because he killed King Javan I. And then you can see the change here. Okay, yeah, okay, it's just different colours, but it's cool. You can see there's someone there as well. Oh, in fact, you can see how they're building it there with the scaffolding as well. Clearly members of the Black Rose. Like it. And then we have, is this the final thing? Yes. Let's go through this. So your basic concept design. I love when they do this as well. Yeah, look at that. And that is the finished product. So you go from this to this. Yeah, nice. Okay, so that was good to go through. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to go through the login theme. He's got two, so I'm going to go through his original, then his story, and then his second login theme. Let's go. The guy is... nice. So that intro with the marching in the background as well, that is the perfect, in my opinion, intro, or should I say theme for someone like Sion. And the guy stood on someone just to make sure they were dead. I paused because I thought he was going to repeat. I thought he was just going to loop and showing constantly standing on this guy, which it hasn't done so far. So good. Yeah. Oh, once again. Okay. Okay, yeah, now that is a logging theme. That logging theme perfectly suits the character and the look of Sion. The use of tempo as well, that build up of tempo, the two instances that it did that is perfect because it ties in nicely with this kind of Noxian, kind of be like Swain's logging theme, this march, this drum beat, this kind of like military march, and then the build up, the tempo fits perfectly with what I know to be his ultimate, which is obviously where he's like I forgot the name of his ultimate, but it ties in perfectly with his ultimate as well. I love that. And obviously the animation, him standing on someone multiple times, is kind of grim as well. Also, I love this design. I noticed this now as well, that you can see like he's cracking, and the way that they've held him together is it's just bolts basically. They've got bolts and sheets of metal that they've put across the cracks to hold it together. I like that as well. Gives him kind of like that Frankenstein kind of look and appeal as well. So that was the first login theme. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to his story. Let's go. Oh, the story is The Mind of Madness. Who could this be? Blood, smell it. Want, aching, need. Close now, they come. No chains. Free kill. Hulk. In reach, yes, die. Gone, too quick. No fight, more, I want more. A voice, unfamiliar. I see him, the Grand General, my General. He leads, I follow, marching to where? I should know, I can't remember. It all bleeds together, does it matter? Noxus conquers the rest, trivial. So long since I've last tasted victory. Okay, the war wagon rocks, rattles a cramped cage, pointless ceremony, the waiting maddening, faster, dogs. I like how it's talking in such small sentences because this is kind of like, it's the track of his thoughts. His thought process as this goes along. There, banners, Damascens and their walls, cowards, their gates will shatter. Thoughts of the massacre come easily. Who gave the order to halt? The underlings don't answer. No familiar faces. If I do not remember, neither will history. The cages are opened. Finally, no more waiting. We charge. Slings and arrows, the weapons of children. I love it when you say slings and arrows are weapons of children. Okay, their walls will not save them. I can taste their fear. They shriek at every blow as their barricades splinter. Soon. Noxian drums, Damascene screams. Glory isn't accolades. Glory is hot blood on your hands. This is life. 1,000 shattered corpses light my feet and Damascene homes burn all around me. Is over too quickly. Just one more. The men stare. There's fear in their eyes. If they're afraid to look upon victory, I should pluck these carven eyes out. There is no fear in the Grand General's eyes, only approval. He is pleased with his conquest. Walking the field with the Grand General, surveying the carnage, I ache for another foe. He is hobbled, a leg wound from the battle. If it pains him, he does not show it, a true Noxian. I do not like his pest, though. It picks over the dead, having earned nothing, which is for the crows. His warhounds are more fitting company. Demacia will be within our grasp soon. I can feel it. I am ready to march. The Grand General insists that I rest. How can I rest when my enemies still live? Why do we mill about? The waiting eats at me. I'm left to my own devices. The bird watches. It's unsettling. Were it anyone else's, I would crush it. Fatigue sets in. I've never felt so tired. Borum, is that you? What are you whispering? Where am I? Captured. Kennelled like some dog. How? There was the battle, the raising of the fortress, the quiet of the aftermath. Were we ambushed? I can't remember, because this is the thing, he's got a really bad memory, so it seems by the sounds of it here that he's lost. I was wounded. I could feel the ragged gash, but no pain. They thought me dead. Now I am their prize. Fate is laughing. I will not be caged. They will regret sparing me. Damascene worms. They're parrot kind words, but they are all ruthless, all the same. This place is a dark pit. They bring no food, there is no torture, but do not make a show of me. I am left to rot. So one's been captured by Damascenes and he's in one of their prisons. I remember my finest hour. I held a king by his throat and felt the final beat of his heart through my tightening grasp. I don't remember letting go. Is this your vengeance, Jarvin? I hear the triumphant march, boots on stone, faint though they're done through the dungeon walls. The candescence is of Noxian drums. I shall be free. Damascene blood will run in the streets. No one came. I heard no struggle, no retreat. Did I imagine it? There is no aching in this stump. I barely noticed I am boot. It's caked in rust. When did I lose my leg? I still smell the blood. Battle. It brings comfort. The hunger gone. Nons. I have not slept. Time crawls. So tired. Okay. How long? So dark. This pit I remember. Grand General. His whispering. What was it? Not who I think. Fading, mustn't forget. Message, cut, remember. Sion, beware ravens, free me, blood. Okay, I've got no idea. I've got no idea what's going on there. What I can make out is that he's working with obviously Swain. Then they lose a battle. He then thinks he's been brought back to Noxus, but he realizes that he's in a prison in Demacia. And then message cut, remember, Sion, beware ravens, free me, blood. No idea. In the Mind of Madness, yeah, I guess I like it talks like it's his thought process, but I'm none the wiser of what's going on with that one. But yeah, that is his story. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to his second login theme. Let's go. Whoa. Okay. Round 2. Okay. Okay, not bad. Not bad. The animation is amazing. The actual shockwaves really reminds me of the login theme for Galio. Two parts. There's 2 parts to this login theme as well. The first part, then there's a little bit of a rest and a break, and it builds up for the second part. My favourite bit's this part here, though. about 10 to 15 seconds is my favourite part of the whole thing. It's decent, and you can see there's definitely attachments to the original with the building of the temple as well, which ties in with Sion and his abilities as well. Not quite as good as the original though, but definitely better animation. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to his special interactions, and then I'm going to finish off with his spotlight. Let's go. Here we go. Wait. Transformers.
Who's the unstable prototype now? I'm less a cow catcher than a cow punch.
Cow punch, okay.
Off the rails, you hobo!
The guy pops his head off and has a cheat to call someone else off the rails. Okay. What? Alright. That's his taunt, is it?
You are a technological dead-end, Blitzcrank. Well, I am the first and the greatest of my kind.
Whatever you say. Whatever you say.
Dunk this. Hope you aren't here for a fair fight. I don't require an engineer.
Maybe you do. Maybe you do.
Your flesh will prove your downfall.
Okay. Enemy humans.
Flesh may rot, but I will reign forever. Consciousness is wasted in your feeble body.
You know what? Maybe it's just me, but his look as like this kind of transformer. I don't think there's original special interactions. This is why I'm doing this one. It's not as intimidating or as impressive. He doesn't have the same aura as the original skin. I think because it's mechanical, it doesn't seem as intimidating. At least for me, in my opinion. At least for me, in my opinion, as well. But do you know what I mean? Though it doesn't seem to have the same threat. If that makes sense. It looks a little bit silly if you ask me. But there we go.
Your species did accomplish one thing of note. It made me.
You were once a human.
Fear is a human weakness. Flesh so frail. Your obliteration shall lay the tracks for a more efficient future. You will wish you were wrought of iron.
It'd be cool if you had a project theme. Or project skin, should I say, as well.
I was designed to supplant you.
Okay.
My gears will grind your bones.
Alright.
There's no Ilawi without Owie.
That was terrible. That was...
Lights out, Jax.
Okay. Fair enough.
And people call me a train wreck. All I see are useless bells and whistles. My model lacks fear. daunting. You suffer from planned obsolescence.
It's great skin. Great skin.
Pathetic.
Perfect.
There are no other models. I am unique.
It looks like it.
Mine's bigger than yours.
Who's gonna say that?
Heroes are overrated. The mistake was leaving you with feeble organic components. I shall assimilate your so-called power and make it my own. Insolent upstart.
I'm not really feeling the animation though. Do you know where he takes his head off?
I represent the future, you throwback.
Like it's a little bit like comical in it, if you know what I mean. Whoa. Okay, there we go.
Metal is willing, but the flesh is weak.
What is that? Victor? There we go.
The only evolution is revolution.
Okay.
The pinnacle of your glorious evolution stands before you, Victor. Are you not pleased? Yes, I have a license for this Trinity Force software. I require no further upgrades, but I just love these boots. Assimilating additional armor.
Did once play it.
Nice name.
Yeah.
Let them blunt their weapons on my steel. None are more righteous or more glorious than me. Even an engine of destruction can use a boost. They can hide, but they cannot run. This train is bound for glory.
Okay. Okay, so that is his skins. Sorry, that's his special interactions. Pretty good. Pretty good. I just think the overall animation and that skin doesn't do what Sion, in my opinion, is all about justice. It makes him look a little bit silly, the animation where he's holding his head in his hand. It looks a little bit stupid if you ask me. It'd just be cooler if it was more sinister looking. Anyways, yeah, good to go through his special interactions. Some of them were pretty funny as well, and some of them were pretty terrible. Some of the jokes he did were horrendous. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish off with his spotlight. Let's go.
Sion, the undead juggernaut.
Yep. Great looking for you. Great.
Death had its chance.
Wait, okay. Hold on. Let's go back here. We've got Vladimir, we've got LeBlanc, Sion, and who is this? Oh, that's Swain. I don't know who the heck this is. That's Swain. This is a... Okay. Well, I think it's Swain.
You reek of fear.
A former Noxian general, Sion was resurrected after his death and now serves as an undead behemoth.
Love it.
A slow and lumbering war machine, Sion only remembers his old self in the heat of battle and fights on in a desperate attempt to keep his past memories from slipping away. In-game, Sion is a stubborn and tanky colossus with powerful area of effect crowd control abilities that help him excel in solo lanes and the jungle.
Okay.
Sion's passive is Glory in Death. Whenever Sion dies, he turns berserk, dropping his axe and gaining huge attack speed, damage, and lifesteal.
I watched a video recently where he died, Glory in Death kicked in, and he got a triple kill. The guy killed 3 people before he died. Mad.
Although Sion revives with full health, it drains as he bleeds out, and drains faster the longer he's alive. Sion's rage makes him stagger, so he moves slower and his abilities are temporarily replaced by Death Surge, which gives him a short burst of movement speed. Glory in Death has no cooldown, so Sion berserks no matter how often he falls in battle. Don't stop fighting when you die. Each of Sion's attacks deal a percent of his target's max health, so you can avenge yourself even after your glorious death. Next is Sion's Q, Decimating Smash. Sion plants himself in position and begins channeling, drawing his axe back to swing it into a fixed but extending cone before him, damaging and knocking up enemies it hits. Decimating Smash deals increasing damage the longer it's charged, but more importantly, only not for him, damaging and extending position and begins channeling.
So I'm not aware that they do this in League anymore, but there's a stun bar. It shows the duration of the stun and when the stun is obviously going to stop.
Drawing his axe back to swing it into a...
They don't do that anymore, but that's interesting actually. I like that. I like that. Not only for you, but then again, that would be an advantage for your enemies, wouldn't it? But I guess an advantage for you as well in a way.
Fixed but extending cone before him, damaging and knocking up enemies it hits. Decimating Smash deals increasing damage the longer it's charged, but more importantly, only knocks up once it's at least half charged.
Got it.
Attack before his weapon flashes, and Sion slows whomever he hits instead. Since Decimating Smash is a channeled ability, it can be interrupted by enemy crowd control, which completely nullifies the attack, but partially reruns his cooldown so he can try again. Use Decimating Smash to follow up on allied crowd control. Your target won't be able to sidestep your attack when they're already stunned. Sion's W is Soul Furnace, which has a passive and active component. Passively, it gives Sion a permanent health bonus each time he kills an enemy, and more when he takes down large neutral monsters, siege minions, and champions. Activating Soul Furnace generates a shield around the big guy that soaks up incoming damage. After a few seconds, Sion can detonate the shield to damage all nearby enemies. There are a couple of important points here. First, if the shield's broken, Sion cannot detonate it. Second, Soul Furnace can be activated and detonated while casting any of his other abilities.
Okay.
Use Soul Furnace to zone your opponents away from your minions. The shield can soak up a decent amount of damage, and the explosion stings even at early ranks. Sion's E is Roar of the Slayer. Upon activation, Sion bellows in a target direction, damaging, slowing, and shredding the armor of the first target struck. Sion's roar is so powerful that if he roars at a minion or monster, he sends his victim flying back even farther than the ability's initial cast range. It turns into a little missile as it flies along its path, dealing increased damage and applying a heavier slow to everything it strikes. Except for walls. Minions can't go through walls. Use Roar of the Slayer to poke your opponents from range. It's especially useful for helping your allies land follow-up abilities. Sion's ultimate is Unstoppable Onslaught. Once started, Sion begins charging in a target direction, gradually speeding up as he moves. If he collides with an enemy champion or terrain, he slams the ground, damaging and knocking up enemies immediately around him, while only slowing enemies farther away. Unstoppable Onslaught has an incredibly long range, and though you can't precisely steer Sion as he charges, he does his best to follow your cursor. While charging, Sion knocks aside minions and shrugs off any attempts to slow or stop him. If Sion reaches the end of his charge or reactivates the ability early, he'll slam the ground, offering the same damage, knockup, and slow as if he hit a champion. Finally, subtlety is not really Sion's forte. Everyone knows whenever he ults thanks to the sound of him charging, which all players can hear. Use Unstoppable Onslaught to initiate team fights. With good timing and positioning, Sion can demolish the enemy team with his charge.
The Art of War.
Though Sion's abilities are powerful in their own right, they're absolutely brutal when used together. Here are a couple of combos to help you power your way through the ranks.
And empowered by Lulu as well.
Whenever you're going in a trade, start by slowing your target with E, activating your shield as you get in position to charge up Decimating Smash. You should have time to get the windup at least half charged before they're out of range. At this point, Soul Furnace should be ready to detonate as you close in for more attacks.
Okay.
This is Sion's bread and butter combo.
I like it shows different combos.
If you have all your abilities up, you should probably cast them in this order.
Nice.
Here's a combo for initiating team fights on groups of enemies. Start with your ultimate, activating Soul Furnace as you start ramping up your speed. Immediately after you crash into the enemy team, you'll knock them up briefly, giving you time to charge your Q as you detonate your shield. Finally, save E to slow any escaping cowards for the killing blow.
Yeah. Okay.
Sion is a lane-pushing jerk. Q and W are your primary abilities for quickly clearing minion waves and conveniently trading with your opponent in the process. Use the laning phase to farm up health from Soul Furnace's passive to scale better into the late game. When jungling, start each camp with a fully charged Q, activating Soul Furnace simultaneously. Make sure to reactivate Soul Furnace just before the shield breaks to damage the whole camp and take as little damage as possible. While most of Sion's gank power comes from his ultimate, early ganks can work if you have good time. Breaks to damage the whole camp and take as little damage as possible.
Alright, look at the size of the dragon. That reminds me, apparently they've released 2 new Drakes, haven't they? Not the album. 2 new dragons in League of Legends. I need to check that out. But look how small the dragon is in comparison to the pit.
While most of Sion's gank power comes from his ultimate, early ganks can work if you have good timing. Spotting Vel'Koz and Kog'Maw near his bot turret, Sion uses Decimating Smash's Broad Cone to land a slow on both fleeing targets before slowing Vel'Koz again with Roar of the Slayer. Ultimately, Sion's repeated slows help his bot lane buddies catch up to and butcher their void enemies. Unstoppable Onslaught's speed and distance mean that Sion's post-6 ganks are most effective coming through the lane. When planning a gank, make sure your ally is ready to engage before you charge in. Here, Sion and Malphite team up for a nearly unstoppable gank to give Veigar the good old gray screen. Sayonara, Veigar.
The good old grey screen.
On the other hand, if Sion reveals himself too early, it could be a grave mistake.
Oops.
Opponents who are quick on the draw can easily sidestep him. While Decimating Smash is a hard-hitting knockup on a low cooldown, it's difficult to land a full channel. It's better to reliably hit your enemies for some damage and a slow, than channel too long and let them flash, dash, or just walk right out of range.
Yeah.
Sion's especially greedy here and misses every single Q as a result. Even though it can go halfway across the map, Unstoppable Onslaught is a great initiation tool even at close range. After engaging, Sion's goal is to disrupt the high damage squishes with his Q and stay alive with Soul Furnace. Note that the confined area of the jungle makes a perfect battleground for Sion's AoE abilities.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Late game, Sion's tanky build combined with Soul Furnace's passive health gain means that hitting him is a wasted effort. Despite not building much damage, Sion's wealth of crowd control and low cooldowns bring a lot of value to extended fights. When your ultimate is down, E is your best way to set up your targets. The slow is long enough that you should be able to follow up with a channel Decimating Smash to ruin their day.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to the Sion Champions.
Okay, that was good. That was good. A good way to wrap up this video review on Sion. I'm loving the blast from the past in terms of the old school League of Legends. Also noticed the stun bar, which is interesting. I don't think they've got that now as well. But no, good. I really like how it showed his combinations as well. What combos they recommend to use in what situations. You don't really get that in the new ones, but good for someone like me that doesn't know too much about the champion to find out what combos they recommend, which was good. And yeah, I think I'll leave it here today, guys, on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed my thoughts and reactions, everything to do with Sion, from his bio to his story to his artwork, his login themes, spotlight, and also his special interactions. And if you did, feel free to let me know. Feel free to like, comment, and maybe also subscribe for more content like this. I have a couple left for Noxus. I've got Swain, Talon, and Vladimir. And then I'm moving on to the next region. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next one.